On Christmas, the cabin walls let in more of the biting winter cold than they kept out. The wind howled outside, piling snow against the thin planks of wood. My's fingers, numb from the chill, moved across torn fabric, the needle piercing thread through cloth that had been mended so many times there was barely anything left to save. She had been working since dawn, and the weak winter light was already fading. Her back ached and her eyes burned, but she couldn't stop. Stopping meant admitting there wasn't enough work to keep them alive through the harsh season. A cough erupted from the back room, wet and rattling like stones in a bucket. My set down her sewing and stood, her body protesting every movement. She was only 22, but felt ancient. Poverty and the relentless cold had a way of aging you faster than time ever could. Her mother, Lee, lay on a cot that sagged in the middle, covered by quilts that offered more sentiment than warmth. Lee's face had hollowed out over the past months, her cheeks sunken, her lips cracked and pale. When she opened her eyes, Mai saw something worse than pain. She saw guilt. Another cough seized her mother. Blood spotted the cloth Mai pressed to her lips. Each red stain was a clock ticking down. Her mother was dying, and Mai couldn't afford the medicine that might save her. The door banged open, letting in a swirl of snow. Bo burst inside, 11 years old and wild with worry. "The trader says no more credit," he gasped, his breath fogging in the frigid air. "Says we owe too much already." Mai's chest tightened, but she kept her face calm for her brother's sake. Bo didn't need to see her panic. After he left to wash up, she unwrapped the bundle he'd brought. A scrap of salt pork, a handful of beans, half a loaf of bread gone hard. It was enough for one meal if they stretched it. Then she heard it, the sound of wagon wheels and the crunch of snow on the rocky path outside. Visitors were rare this far into the mountains, especially in the dead of winter. Mai went to the window and her breath stopped. It was Agnes Thorne, a name from years past when her father had guided wealthy families through the mountain passes. Inside the cabin, Agnes knelt beside her mother's cot. "Lee, I came as soon as I received your letter." Mai's world tilted. "What letter?" Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "Forgive me, daughter. I had no choice." Agnes stood and faced Mai. "Your mother wrote to me 3 weeks ago. She told me about her illness, about your situation. My nephew Isaac needs a wife. He was injured by a grizzly 2 years ago. His legs were badly damaged since the accident, he is paralyzed and cannot walk on his own. He's become bitter and withdrawn, the words landed like blows. You want me to marry him? Your mother has already agreed. In exchange, I'll pay for all her medical treatment. Your brother Bo will go to a proper school, and you'll live at the Thorn Ranch with security." Mai turned to her mother. "You sold me." "I saved you," her mother gasped. "Both of you." "I'm dying, Mai. But I couldn't die knowing I was leaving you with nothing." "But I don't know him." "Isaac was a legend in these mountains before the accident," Agnes said. "A true mountain man. He's a good man beneath his pain." Mai looked at Bo standing in the doorway with frightened eyes. She looked at her mother, dying by inches in the unforgiving cold. Agnes was right. There was no choice. "When do I leave?" 1 week. That week passed like a fever dream. On the morning Mai left, her mother called her close. "I know you hate me, but I did this out of love." Mai couldn't forgive. "Not yet." When the wagon arrived, Bo clung to her until she gently pried him away. "Be good. Study hard." The journey took most of the day. They climbed higher into country so wild and covered in a thick blanket of snow it looked like God had just finished creating it. When they emerged into a high valley, Mai caught her breath. The Thorn Ranch wasn't some gentle farmstead. It was a fortress carved from the wilderness. The main house stood massive and solid, built from logs as thick as a man's body, its roof heavy with snow. Agnes led her inside and showed her through rooms that felt more substantial than anywhere Mai had ever lived. Finally, they climbed stairs to a bedroom with a real bed and a window overlooking mountains that stretched forever into the white distance. Isaac's rooms are at the end of this hall, Agnes said. You'll meet him tomorrow. The wedding is the day after. So soon. There's no benefit in waiting. The next afternoon, Mai was in the library when she heard it, the uneven thump of footsteps, the tap of a cane on wood. She turned. He stood in the doorway, tall and powerfully built through the shoulders despite his injury. Dark hair touched his collar. His face was all hard angles and weathered skin that might have been handsome before bitterness carved itself into every line. His eyes were pale grey, like winter storms. He leaned heavily on a cane. This was Isaac Thorne. The legend, reduced to hobbling through his own house. You must be Mai, he said. His voice was as rough as gravel. Yes, sir. You must be Isaac. Did you agree to this? Did you choose it? His bluntness stung. Did you? She shot back. No, but I'm a cripple with no prospects. What's your excuse? My excuse, Mai said, her voice shaking, is that my mother is dying and my brother is 11 and we were starving through a bitter winter. My excuse is that I had no choice. Something shifted in his expression. At least you're honest. He turned to leave. Mai spoke before she could stop herself. They say you were a mountain man. He paused. I was. What happened? The silence stretched. The bear took my legs, but I lost everything else on my own. Then he was gone, the echo of his cane fading down the hall. The wedding happened the next morning. A circuit preacher spoke words that bound them together. They repeated vows in flat voices, two people trapped by circumstance. When the preacher pronounced them married, Isaac didn't kiss her. He simply nodded and limped back to his study. The first weeks passed in a cold routine. They took meals separately, barely seeing each other except in passing. Mai learned the household rhythms from the cook, Clara. She discovered evidence of who Isaac had been everywhere, journals describing expeditions, sketches of mountain passes, a massive bearskin from his first solo hunt. What was he like before? Mai asked Clara one day. Like the mountains themselves, Clara said. Wild and free and strong. People came from back east just to have Isaac Thorne guide them. Then the bear broke his body, and losing who he was broke his spirit. That night, Mai decided she'd had enough. She knocked on his study door. We need to talk, she said. About how we're going to live. I understand this wasn't your choice. It wasn't mine either. But we're here now. At a minimum, we share meals. We speak like human beings. We try to build something that isn't completely miserable. Isaac studied her. Why do you care? Because I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. So are you. We can make it bearable or we can make it hell. He almost smiled. Very well. We'll dine together. From that evening on, they shared supper. At first, in near silence, but gradually small conversations began about the weather, the ranch, neutral topics. Mai also began exploring the valley. One afternoon, she found a high meadow with a view that stretched for miles across the snow-covered landscape. When she returned, Isaac was on the porch. Where did you go? The high meadow. It's beautiful. His expression went distant. I used to go there to think. Mai sat on the porch steps. Tell me about it. About the mountains. He was silent so long she thought he'd refuse. Then he began to speak about his first expedition at 15, about standing on peaks and seeing the world spread endlessly below, about tracking elk through deep snow. His voice took on a warmth when he spoke of the mountains. When he stopped, Mai said quietly, "You miss it terribly." Every day I remember I can't go back. You can still walk. The knowledge didn't disappear. Just because you can't climb every peak doesn't mean you're not still a mountain man. He looked at her with surprise. You don't understand. I understand being trapped in a life you didn't choose. So maybe we're not so different. Something cracked in his armor. You didn't want this either. No, but giving up is the same as dying. And I'm not ready to die. The days grew shorter as winter deepened. Letters came saying her mother was responding well to treatment. Bo wrote enthusiastically about his new school. Mai took over household accounts, started planning a small garden for the spring, and slowly she built a friendship with her husband. They fell into evening routines. After supper they'd sit by the fire, sometimes talking. Sometimes Isaac read from his journals. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. One evening about 2 months after the wedding, Mai gathered her courage. "Isaac, tell me about the grizzly." He stiffened. "Why?" "Because it's part of who you are now." In a low, rough voice, he told her about guiding surveyors, about stumbling onto a grizzly den with cubs, about the mother bear coming at him, about being mauled, about months of agony learning to walk again. "And for what?" he finished bitterly. "So I can hobble around my own house." "So you can still live," Mai said firmly. "We don't get to choose everything that happens, but we can choose how we respond." He reached out and touched her hand, the first voluntary touch since the wedding. "I'm sorry for being part of what trapped you here." Mai clasped his hand. "We're both trapped. Maybe we can make the cage more comfortable together." The first heavy snow of the new year came in early November. Mai woke to find the world transformed. She went outside and stood marveling. Isaac appeared in the doorway. "Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful and deadly. I used to love first snow. It meant the high country was mine alone." Mai made a decision. "Then let's go into the mountains." "Not far. Just enough so you can be there again." "I can't." "You can ride. We'll take it slow." He stared at her, then slowly nodded. They prepared carefully. Isaac saddled horses using a special mounting block. The ride started tense, but as they moved into the snow-dusted forest, something changed. Isaac's posture relaxed. Wonder dawned on his face. He started pointing things out, coyote tracks, where a cornice would form, a hidden spring. He was teaching her. His voice came alive. They reached a clearing with a view across the valley. Isaac stopped and sat very still. "This is what I needed," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Then we'll come again whenever you want." He looked at her with gratitude. "Thank you for not letting me give up." That ride became the first of many. Isaac taught Mai to read the wilderness signs, to track animals, to predict the weather. She loved it. The clean, cold air, the vast silences. Something was growing between them. It was in the way his eyes followed her, in the way she listened for his cane, in the comfortable silences. Winter deepened. Her mother improved. Bo sent excited letters about school. When Mai shared these with Isaac, he said, "I'd like to meet them. When the weather clears, perhaps they could visit." Mai looked up, surprised. "You'd welcome them. They're your family. That makes them mine, too." As Christmas approached, Agnes visited. She pulled Mai aside. "You look well." "I'm adjusting." "And Isaac?" "He's different. Better." On Christmas Eve, Mai and Isaac sat by the fire. She had decorated the room with pine boughs and holly. "This is the first time I haven't dreaded Christmas in 3 years," Isaac said. "What's different is you. Having you here makes everything feel less empty." Mai's heart beat faster. "I know how we started," he continued. "But Mai, you've given me hope, purpose. I'm grateful you're here." Mai crossed to him and knelt, taking his hand. "I was so angry. I felt like I'd been sold. But you've treated me with respect. You've shared your world with me. The man I've come to know is worth knowing." He cupped her face. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not, but you have me anyway." They kissed for the first time, gentle and tentative, but it was real and chosen, and it changed everything. From that night, they were truly married, not just in name, but in heart. They shared their days and a growing affection. Isaac opened up about his life before. Mai told him about her childhood. They learned each other's rhythms. Winter held the mountains, but warmth grew inside their home. One snowy afternoon, Isaac said, "Tell me about your mother." Who she was before the illness. She was strong. After my father died, she held everything together. But it wasn't enough. When the sickness came, there was no money. She must have been terrified. She was. I understand that now. I'm glad she did what she did, Isaac said. If she hadn't, I'd never have met you. You saved me, my. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You saved me, too. Spring came slowly, melting the deep snow. Mai's mother and Bo came to visit in late April. When Mai saw them, she ran to meet them. Bo had grown nearly as tall as Mai now. She sat with her mother on the porch. "I'm so sorry," Lee said through tears. "I did feel betrayed," Mai admitted. "Part of me still struggles, but I understand why. Can you forgive me?" Mai looked at the mountains that had become home. "I'm trying. But look at me now. I'm healthy, safe." "You're happy," her mother observed. "I've come to care for him more than I expected. Then I can die in peace." "You gave me a future," Mai said. "I see that now." They held each other and cried. That evening, Isaac was kind to Bo, patient with his endless questions. He showed him maps and journals, shared mountain stories. Later, Isaac spoke with Lee. "I'll take care of her. I'll do everything to make her happy. Treat her well. That's all I ask." The visit lasted a week. When they departed, Mai felt less pain. She knew her family was safe. As the wagon disappeared, Isaac took her hand. "You all right?" "Yes," she said. "I really am." Summer came alive. High meadows grew lush. Isaac and Mai rode out often. Mai had become a confident rider. Isaac was stronger than he'd been in years. He would never be what he was before, but he'd found a new way to be in the mountains. One afternoon they rode to a high ridge overlooking the valley. "You can see why I never wanted to leave," Isaac said. "You're still a mountain man. Your body changed, but your heart didn't." He looked at her with such love. "How did I get so lucky?" "You didn't get lucky. You got stuck with a woman forced to marry you. But we made something good. We made something extraordinary." He dismounted and helped Mai down. They stood together, the wind whipping around them. Isaac took both her hands. "Mai, I know how we started, but if I could choose freely from all the women in the world, I would still choose you. I love you. Not because I have to, but because you're strong and kind and brave. Because you saved me. Because you make every day worth living." Tears streamed down Mai's face. "I love you, too. I didn't want to. I fought against it. But I love you with everything I am." They kissed there on the mountain, two people forced together who chose to love. That summer they became a true partnership. Mai took on more ranch responsibility. The workers came to respect her as a capable leader. Bo stayed for 6 weeks. Isaac taught him to ride, to track, to read the mountains. One evening, Isaac pulled Mai aside. "Bo is bright. When he finishes school, I'd like to send him to university back east. He should have the best education." "That's incredibly generous." "His family. Why wouldn't I help him?" In the fall, Mai discovered she was pregnant. She told Isaac one evening. He stared at her, then tears rolled down his cheeks. "A baby? We're going to have a baby. Are you happy?" "I never thought I'd have this. A wife who loves me, a child, a family. I thought the bear took that forever." He held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Their son, Daniel, was born in late February during a blizzard. When Isaac finally heard the baby's cry, he burst through the door. "Meet your son," Mai said. Isaac looked down at the tiny face, and something inside him broke open. "He is perfect." As Isaac held his son, he looked at Mai with wonder. Thank you for giving me a life I thought was impossible. We gave it to each other, she said. Years passed, full and rich. Daniel grew strong with his father's love of the mountains. Bo finished school with honors and went to university. And Lee lived 3 more years, long enough to see her grandson. When she passed peacefully, Mai grieved without bitterness. Her mother had done what she thought best, and it had led to happiness. A daughter came next, Lin, with Mai's dark eyes and quick mind. Isaac adored his fierce little girl. The ranch prospered. Isaac became known throughout the territory as fair and shrewd. But more, he was known as the mountain man who'd come back from despair, who'd found a way to live fully. One autumn afternoon, nearly 8 years after their marriage, Mai and Isaac rode to that same ridge with Daniel, now 7. Remember when you first brought me here? Mai asked. I do. I told you I loved you. Do you still? More every day. Daniel asked for a story. Isaac laughed and launched into a tale, his voice animated. Mai watched and marveled. This wasn't the bitter, broken man she'd first met. This was a man fully alive. That night, after the children slept, they sat by the fire. Do you ever regret it? Mai asked. How we started. Isaac reached for her hand. Not for a single moment. My mother didn't just save my life. She gave me a life. We gave each other a life, he corrected. You showed me I could still be who I was, just differently. The contract became love. Yes. And that love became this family, this life, everything we've built. Their story spread through the mountain communities, the Chinese woman sacrificed to save her family and the paralyzed mountain man who'd lost everything, how they'd been forced together and built something beautiful. People called it remarkable, but they knew the truth. It hadn't been magic. It had been hard work, a daily choice, the decision to keep trying. Love wasn't something that just happened to them. It was something they built, day by day, through long winters and brief summers. Years later, when Daniel ran the ranch and Lin had married, when Bo had become a respected lawyer, Mai and Isaac still rode to that high ridge when the weather permitted. They moved slower now, both feeling the weight of years, but they still went. Do you remember, Mai asked one golden afternoon, when we were strangers bound by a contract? I remember thinking my life was over, Isaac said. And I remember thinking I'd been sold. What changed? We did, he replied. We chose to change. We chose each other, day after day, until choosing became as natural as breathing. Isaac took her weathered hand. Best choice I ever made. Mine, too, she said. They sat as the sun descended toward the western peaks. They had lived a good life, built something lasting from the most unlikely beginning. When people asked Mai if she'd forgiven her mother, she always smiled. My mother didn't give me away. She gave me a gift. She gave me a future. She gave me love. I just didn't recognize it at first. The mountains stood eternal, witnesses to their story. A story of sacrifice and redemption, of bitterness transformed to joy, of 2 wounded souls who healed each other, proof that sometimes the things we're forced into become the very things that save us. As the stars emerged, Isaac and Mai made their slow way down the mountain toward home, toward the life they'd built from ashes and necessity and a stubborn refusal to give up on hope. And the mountains, ancient and wise, held them in their embrace,